I'm Laura Walker Hudson, and I'm the CEO of the Social Impact Lab Foundation. We make Frontline SMS, a desktop and soon cloud-based application that lets you easily send, receive, and manage SMS almost anywhere you are in the world. I guess you could say I'm a technologist now, but before that, I worked for an aid agency. My job was to get harried aid workers to think about new ways of doing things. That is not an easy job to have. The future is here, I would shout to a workshop full of baffled, grumpy, hard-bitten people who'd spent their professional lives doing difficult things in tough places. We should try this thing! Somehow, my enthusiasm was not infectious, and it seemed the future never quite got to where we were. While working with Frontline SMS, I've had lots of time to ponder why this happens, why it's so hard to try something new, or why, if you make it work in one place, it's so hard to roll it out in other places and in other types of work. ICT for development has come a long way. We're no longer trying to work out how we ourselves can get a technology to work. We're trying to make it work in broader contexts, more sustainably, and aiming for quality outcomes. But as we move from pilotitis to scale-up fever, many people are asking, what are the barriers to making things work at an organisational level? Why is this so hard? At Frontline SMS, we've spent 7 years learning how to make software that's usable by real people. We thought that would be enough, that making software easy to use, making it free and simple to get hold of, would mean that anyone could use it anywhere. And it helps. But we've learned that it's not enough. We've worked with people trying to do things with SMS in everything from election monitoring to climate change activism to running rape crisis centres to providing legal services, and they all come across the same problems. They are real, they are sometimes intractable, they are difficult trade-offs, and they are headache-inducingly many. Perhaps you're the person in your organisation who's charged with finding these innovations and promoting them to your colleagues. Perhaps you're the field officer who wants the approval and a bit of start-up funding to try something new. Whoever you are, technology can be terrifying. There's a multiplicity of platforms, operating systems, devices, service providers and services to choose from, without even thinking of where, in all this, actual project design fits in. It's complicated terrain and there is no map. Implementing technology is just organisational change with a sexy gadget attached. You have to adapt existing systems and attitudes and fit in with existing organisational tools. In a large agency, this can seem impossible. Then there are complex issues: risk, data ownership, data security, open data, interoperability, open source or not open source. Everyone has an opinion, and no one can weigh up these factors but you. And behind it all, what happens if this technology is as transformative as we think? What happens if the data shows us something that we're not prepared for? Not all technology is good or well built. And even when it is, it just doesn't work in every setting. The good news is that if you're a project-oriented person, a child nutrition expert, or a livelihoods advisor, whether working with farmers or forestry, you're actually ideally placed to avoid a lot of the pitfalls, because you already know most of what will help a technology project to succeed. You know that context matters. Human beings use technology and they have a context. Things like literacy, access to a mobile network, access to a power supply, familiarity with technology all matter. There is no one-size-fits-all approach. What's important is having a good, varied toolkit and understanding the strengths and weaknesses of each thing in it. You have to know how to select the right approach. This depends on many factors: who should use the technology, where they are, whether they have reliable internet access, your budget, your appetite for training, and the scale of the data you're collecting. Technology, however good and however fashionable, is only 10% of the solution. Just like focus group discussions and household surveys, just doing one won't help. It has to be done right. Resourcing the team, planning for data analysis, asking the right questions, training data collectors, making sure data flows effectively from decentralized points to the center and back out again. Without all this, the deployment won't work. Local ownership is critical. If you're relying on a tool being implemented by a team, then they have to understand it. They have to get value from it, and they have to buy into it. If they do, you'll be set for life. If you don't, you'll be setting yourself up for failing rollouts and expensive reinforcement. How can you explain to your team or your local partner what the benefits are for them? Can you provide incentives to people to do things like data collection well? When picking any service provider or tool, you have to understand its whole ecosystem. Who builds it? Is it maintained? Are those people still going to be here in 5 years? Will they help you stay current? Is it simple to use, or will you have to resource endless trainings? Many things affect this, but it isn't as simple as open source or commercial. It's about whether the tools makers have a business model and are planning for sustainability in the longer term. There are helpful resources and models out there to help you work out the best approach for your current program. Whatever your organisation, you will develop your own understanding of what works and what doesn't. For example, the World Bank has produced a set of implementation models for data collection through staff, through automated devices, from the crowd and from existing data sets, with advice and successful techniques for each one. So, what would I say to my hard-bitten aid workers now, looking back? I think I'd look at them differently, not as people standing in the way of progress, but as people who are yet to be convinced that technology will help them do what they are already doing, but better, faster, and more sustainably.